Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Hey, Inshira.
Hey.
How are you, my love?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. I can't complain.
Alhamdulillah. You know, Inshira, you are like one of the first people I met when I moved to Atlanta. Like, we go back 16 years, girl.
We do. we do.
Oh my gosh. Alhamdulillah. Okay. So I'm so appreciative to be able to do this. I wanted to say assalamu alaikum and greetings to everybody. Welcome back to the Dope Muslim Woman podcast. This is season 5. I'm here talking to my longtime friend, fellow creative, Inshira Shahid. Walaikum salam. Please drop your salams, give your greetings as you come in, share the stream as you come in. And I am so humbled to introduce my beloved friend and playwright, right? Or would you call yourself a playwright?
Well, I'm the production person. My husband is the playwright. He's unfortunately not here today because he's under the weather.
Yeah. So mashallah, we scheduled for Inshira and her husband, Salahuddin. Is his name Mahdi or Salahuddin? Salahuddin, right?
Mahdi is his last name, but yes, Salahuddin is his first name.
Salahuddin to be on the show. Unfortunately, Salahuddin is under the weather. We have Inshira here representing, and then inshallah, we plan on doing something with both of them and more in-studio sort of live show to really kind of bring this thing to life for you guys. But I'm super excited to just be here with Inshira to talk about this topic. I went on live, Inshira, and I got my whole bag last night. I'm so glad Facebook took down the video. Sometimes Facebook doesn't save the videos properly. That one didn't stay up, but I went into my whole bag, like emotional bag, just about the play and just like how the synopsis really spoke to me. But I do know that you guys are doing a play called True to My Religion. It is launched in Atlanta in a week. And I wanted to just kind of get an idea. First of all, let me just back up. Okay. So you and your husband have been married for a few years, right?
Yeah, we've been married for we've been married for 2 years. It'll be 3 in January, inshallah.
Okay, inshallah, mashallah. And so how did this idea of you guys kind of working together creatively to create a play, like how did that happen? Is that how y'all fell in love or what?
No. Actually, it's funny, but that was one of the things that attracted him to me, was because I was a go-getter, creative, someone who loved doing events, putting on events, and he is a part of a group in DC because he's from DC originally. The group is DC Black Broadway, so he's been putting on plays with DC Black Broadway for a minute, like for a good minute, and so he wanted to do plays down here, but he wanted to do more of a Muslim play for the Muslim. So for the Ummah, basically to show that, we can have fun and we can do, good things as well, have fun and everything like that, and still give dawah at the same time. Right. So because I am a creative and he found that attractive, I was like, okay, you got some skills too. You're a playwright. And so I was just blown away by his skills, because what he co-wrote the Giz, the go-go version of the Giz in DC, and they actually sold out the MGM Harbor in DC.
Wow.
So he's a fantastic, phenomenal writer. He really is. And I'm just so happy to be helping him into creating this play, because this is his baby.
Wow.
And the fact that we are both creatives, sometimes it cross paths, like I'm in his lane and he in my lane, and I'm like, you doing this, and he's like, so alhamdulillah. But when I tell you, the play is well written, and he's just really dope. He's like, he's so dope. Mashallah.
That's so nice. That's so nice to hear that. Mashallah. It's so nice to hear that. And I think we did a podcast where we talked about the Black Love Muslim series, maybe last season. And we had a whole podcast on the idea of like having partnership like purposeful partnership, it was called. When you build your partnership, when you build your marriage, when you build your union off of two people having like similar missions, similar goals, similar purpose, and finding a way to fuse that together to make things happen and to ultimately to contribute back the way we're supposed to be in this community. So we're going to get to the play in a little bit, but I did want to talk a little bit with you about just some of the ideas and themes. Like obviously with this podcast, although in some elements there's like a theatrical creative component that comes with it, there is a lot of deeper issues we try to bring to the surface. And the reason why I kind of got a little bit emotional, and it's interesting, I said this intro, and I'm gonna share this with you. I don't mind, I gotta get a little vulnerable.
No, you're fine.
But I shared this on my live yesterday, and I said, sometimes I don't know or understand in the moment when Allah brings me something. Because, like the idea of like, okay, let's talk about true to my religion. Like it was always my plan to go to the show, go to the play, but like talking about it on the podcast, and the moment that it came to me, I didn't quite get how it could fuse into what we're doing in season 5, like right in that moment. And this always happens. I promise you, that's how there's no coincidence or nothing, but Allah sent a very real reality about my children, about parenting, raising my kids, just the reality of just trying to be Muslim, hold on to the deen here, be a good example, make mistakes along the way, have to make amends, look at the way it's impacting my kids, look at being able to realize, okay, that they're making some mistakes. What do I do about it? This all literally happened like within the last week, this reality. And I'm like, I'm about to talk about a play that is really amplifying this struggle. And I'm like, okay, Allah, I totally get it. I know I have to talk to Insurance Salahuddin now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I totally
because it's real, and the play itself, it's based on some of someone's life that's close to him and in his immediate group, and so his immediate friend group. So having that story, knowing that it has real life to it, and people can relate to the story, because as parents and as human beings, we go through so much. And I truly believe we are all doing our best. We are all trying to make it. We are trying to maintain in Islam. We're trying to maintain our deen, and living in a society that promotes the opposite is hard. And then trying to not only raise your children, but trying to raise yourself too in Islam, to make sure you're doing the right thing. It's hard. It is hard.
And we need to be more graceful in this process.
Yes.
Like, So ultimately, this is about someone who kind of makes some mistakes and tries to turn themselves around. And I want to talk a little bit about this idea of like when some of us get really lost. Like many of us, you'll see some of us will lose our faith for a variety of reasons. Maybe we get caught up, life of crime, we do something we shouldn't. You know what I mean? We get caught up, we got to pay a price for that. We have a really horrible relationship, and that shatters and shakes our faith.
Right.
And we didn't, you know what I mean? And we're trying to come back from that. Talk a little, I wanted to ask you a little bit about just the idea of falling, because a lot of people that listen to the Adult Muslim Woman podcast are people that can relate to this idea of just falling off track, falling off track. And, what is sort of the place, or where should a person really be looking towards when they're in that dark place? They made a really mistake, especially when it comes to their faith.
Yeah. So I'm going to use myself as an example. I experienced losing my father, right? My father is very, very dear to me. I love that man. May Allah have mercy on his soul. And that was hard for me, losing him, because he was like my best friend. I talked to him about everything. He knew me, And so it happened so fast losing him, right? He was there at Eid. 2 days later after Eid, he passed. So, and he passed in his house alone, So it was very traumatic for me. And during that time, I was like, okay, I felt like I was already going through something, because I was coming out of a new divorce, and then I was finding my bearings, and then my dad was like such a great help during that time for me. And then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, the rug just pulled away from underneath me. So now I'm like, okay, I understand that, you know, I got to mourn this, but I can't do this. And then I want to say about a month after his passing, it really hit me. And then I started like kind of slacking on my prayers. I wasn't mad at Allah. I didn't curse Allah. I never do that. But I was understanding, like, how did he leave? Like, I know he had to go, but the fact that the way he left and how he left, it was so traumatic and heartbreaking for me. Like, I was having a hard time comprehending that, you know, that situation that happened. So for me, I definitely veered off the path. And when I say veered off the path, I mean not doing what I was supposed to as far as praying, not consciously being aware. You know, I never removed my khimar or anything like that, or my garment, or, you know, just hijab. I was just like, I get to salat when I want to, or I'll just get around to doing what I need to do. Like, I literally felt back in my responsibilities as a Muslim, as my responsibilities to Allah, you know?
Yeah,
and so here am I, you know, I'm hurting, I'm in pain, and I'm just like, oh, Allah, I don't understand why I'm feeling, I don't understand it. Like, I can't wrap my mind around it. But on the outside, everybody's like, oh, you're so strong, you're handling it so well. But no, I'm not. I'm not making my prayers. I'm not doing this. I kind of like went into a slump, like, you know.
Yeah.
So in order for me, what helped me get back to my deen, what helped me to get back to me was my mother, my siblings, my friends. They definitely, my mother, she played a big role in that, Sister Jamila. Just helping understand it, because she lost her mom too, right? And having a parent, that to lose a parent that was dear and close to them, they can relate. And she just told me, you know, Allah makes no mistakes. You know, you have to, this is not a time for you to run away from Islam. This is the time for you to run towards Islam. This is the time for you to get closer to Allah, because Shaitan comes to you in those weakest moments. Yes, and he came, honey. He came. Okay.
No, what you mean? I've been there.
Vulnerable. You in that space, you know. Right. You in that space, and you don't want to sit there too long. And that's what my mom kept on saying. You don't want to sit there too long. You need to get up. Just, you know, you cry your tears, do this, but don't sit there too long, because Shaitan will have you thinking that you hate Islam, that this and that, and you like, wait a minute, where did this come from? I never had these feelings. But when you're in a state of hurt or pain, or not really understanding, or you're understanding, but it's taking it hard because you're going through the stages of grief, you know.
Absolutely.
So that happened to me. That definitely threw me off my path. But alhamdulillah, I had a believing mother,
and a great support.
That was definitely reminding me of Allah. Like, you turn to Allah, you don't turn your back on Allah. Allah is the only one that you can call on that can heal your heart, you know?
Absolutely. You know, you mentioned something powerful, Inshira, and, you know, subhanAllah, as it relates to just the power of good people around you and how important that really is. I want to ask you, like, when we, just as Black Muslims, okay, when we go through our stuff, our divorces, our, you know, deaths, you know, all kinds of the challenges with our kids, do you find that we have safe spaces to go?
Not 100% all the time. Not 100% all the time. I think when, and once again, I can only use myself as an example. I think when I went through my divorce, it was a very rough time, you know, prior to meeting Salahuddin. And I did have people that were good company that helped me, that made sure I didn't go too far left or anything. Like, they reminded me, and alhamdulillah, it was a shield, a blessing from Allah. You know, it was just a rough marriage, a rough everything. And alhamdulillah, Allah gave me those people that I needed. But I felt like the sisterhood that I wanted, or the safe space that I thought I could do, sometimes like, oh no, you don't need to talk about that. But it's like, you're venting, but you need to get it out. And I had that with my sisters, some of my close friends, but some of the Muslim sisters that's in the community that I wanted to talk to, they didn't want to talk about it because either they knew him or they knew the family, and they like, no, you know, or it was like, oh, you was young, you make that decision to marry somebody who was older, you know, it was just all that. And it's like, wait a minute.
Child,
yeah, it was judgment. And then one of them even said, oh, I'm surprised that you didn't take off your chemo, that you didn't go straight. Like, this is what someone told me. I was like, why would I do that? And they was like, you know, because, you know, that's what Muslims do who's young and they get out of a rough situation. They just go left or go. I was like, no, he met me in the masjid. He met me praying. You know, I'm like, that's
what's kind of brutal. I'm sorry. I do have, like, just to kind of pivot off of this point. Mm-hmm. And I think we could kind of, you know, bring this around to what you guys are creating. But this, you know, that is really what's rough. And honestly, when we think about our kids, when we think about even raising young generation, I got married at 18, you know what I mean? And so it's like, it can be brutal out there. You're going through a challenge, you can't go nowhere. Oh, sister, be patient. You know what I mean? Like there's no, then if something does happen, you get a divorce and it's shame on you for that. And it's like, you know, ultimately, like we are losing people. We are losing people. We are losing our children because of the fact that we attach more shame sometimes than actual help and emotional safety and support. I wanted to talk a little bit about this idea of, okay, kind of falling down, making a mistake. Right. And I know you mentioned some of your personal stories, but for people that may have other responsibilities attached to them when they fall, like children, right?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
And trying to get back up and make amends. Talk to me a little bit about just the youth, because I know you've done so much with working with young people. What do you think? I did a podcast. I'm going to say this real quick. I did a podcast called Why I Don't Want to Get Married. I don't know if you saw it, but it was with young people. And people, you know, the adults were super upset that they were having this conversation, but the young people don't often have space to talk. What is it that you hear based on your work, what you've done? What are you hearing as some of the things that they're struggling or dealing with as it just relates to the relationship between them and their Muslim parents?
That's a good question. One of the events I threw, I had, like, I want to say was 75 teens that came out, and we were having an open forum. We was talking. So what they would do so they can have a safe space to talk, I was like, just put your questions in the basket and we'll randomly pull them. So that way nobody felt like they were on the spot. Right. And one of the things that they said was, my parents are hypocrites. One of the things was like, my parents are hypocrites. They pray in the open, like at the masjid, we at somebody's house. And then, but when we at home, we're not praying as a family. We're not praying together, or it's not a major thing for us to actually pray. Or they don't force them to pray, don't ask them to pray. They pray by themselves, but don't invite the kids to pray with them. That was one of them. The other thing was the alcohol. That was like, my parents say don't drink alcohol. Islam say don't drink alcohol, but my parents throw parties and they have adult parties and they say, you know, we got to stay up here, but they got alcohol all in the back room and everything like that. So that was like another eye opener why they felt the way they do. And then some of them was just like, you know, I'm not interested. I don't think I want to be Muslim as I get older. And that was some of the comments that were being made. And unfortunately, it's really sad because I've seen it. You know I've seen it for myself firsthand that the youth, they're looking at their parents. We are their first teacher. So if we are being so hard on them and telling them our expectation for them, then what is the expectation for us as parents? What are we doing to help nurture that relationship? What are we doing to make sure that our children are seeing a healthy Muslim relationship between child and parent and child? Like, what are we establishing in our homes? You know, because we can be who we want to be when we go outside, when we're in the public view, but it's who we are behind closed doors. What are they picking up? You know, and a lot of things. And another thing that you said was, they went to one of the Muslim schools. They said, my mom always tried to tell me, you know, we don't need to backbite. We don't need to slander. But it's like, she be on the phone slandering everybody that comes to the door. She telling everybody, it's just
It'd be the little things that you think that they're not paying attention to.
Yeah.
That's true.
And as a parent, you can get guilty, caught up in girl talk or whatever. And I've been guilty of it too, but it's just like they're sponges. They really are sponges. And as they get older, we that's not the time for us to be like, all right, they older, they don't need us. No, that's the time we have to pull them close. We have to be attentive to them. We can't have them like, okay, they're up in age, I don't have to worry about them like that. They can do. No, we need to, just like we need reminders to pray, they need reminders to pray. Just like we need reminders to make sure we doing what we need to do that Allah told us to do, they need that too.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the times we're not giving our kids grace. We're just having all these expectations and living a double life. What they see, and what they see in a home front.
Yeah. SubhanAllah. That's heavy. That's heavy. And a lot of us have to eat that and reflect on that. And like I said, a big part of this play is often about making amends, which we'll talk about. I wanted to bring in a comment. Some of it is from Miriam. It's kind of related to what we talked about prior in relationship to kind of like losing your faith as it relates to like relationships. She said that I had a bad ordeal with a Muslim brother that an imam asked to marry me to teach me my religion. And I moved to Africa with him on a one-way ticket. I'm gonna skim through some of it, but she said she ended up being asked to leave because of the second wife causes problems, etc. She couldn't speak the language. She was stranded in Africa, had to get back to America. She said when she got home, she was really discouraged, I guess, from practicing Islam because it's a little bit long. Some of it is cut off, Miriam, but basically because of this sort of challenge in ordeal, she was just really discouraged from practicing Islam. Stating that like kind of holding on to the faith when you are, as you mentioned, dealing with intensive pain, grief, etc., becomes really, really challenging. Any words to our sister Miriam in regards to this comment?
Yes, I would say for Sister Miriam, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. I think a lot of us, when we go through traumatic experiences, we always tend to attach Islam to the grief. Islam is perfect. Human beings that's in Islam, they're not perfect. So we cannot hold fault. We cannot always attach Islam to the issue. And when it's that person or that situation, Islam is beautiful. But it's like she said, it's people who push you to go somewhere or recommend you to someone who they don't really know, or they don't know a lot about, but they just see him out and about or see her out and about, and they like, oh yeah, that's a good brother. How you know? So I would say to Miriam to, find your way back to Allah, find your way back to Islam, call on Allah, talk to Allah, tell your pain, tell your story, whatever you feel. May Allah make your heart ease. May Allah grant you to have ease in your heart and bring you back to Al-Islam. And to make it, for you to forgive those individuals, because it's forgiveness, it's power in forgiveness.
It really is. And I appreciate you saying that, Inshra, and it makes, when you were talking, it made me really reflect on the title of your play and the title of today's podcast, which is called True to My Religion, which really is about like that sincerity piece. You mentioned that a lot of young people are having issues, or they're sort of in this sort of diet, like having this, like, it's almost like a split of alignment, because they see one thing, they're told another, and they like, listen, this don't even seem like it is what it is. But being true to your religion all the way and really finding that place, and eventually with sincerity, you can see that God was always calling you back. He was always loving on you, even through the grief and the pain. He did that to bring you closer to him. He did that to bring you back to him, because sometimes we attach our worship to people. We put, it don't be about Islam, it'd be about
the man or the woman.
That part, right? So in the play, Inshra, this is a journey, and I know, we don't want to give off any, secrets of the play.
I know my husband hurt me.
Like, girl, I was hoping to get you. I want you to keep your marriage now. But this guy, this brother, this man, he goes through a challenging time. He has children. He goes through a challenging time that takes him away. He comes back, and he's and correct me, okay? But this is what I understood, is that he comes back and he gets really serious about his deen. He starts to build a new family. But am I understanding that there's an issue with his past? Okay.
So Yusuf, the main character, before he became Muslim, initially, he was in the streets. So while he was in the streets, he had a girlfriend, he had a kid, and then he went away to prison, came back out. This time, when he comes back out, he's Muslim, but he's not practicing it. He's still caught up in the fast life, still messing around with the same girlfriend, got her pregnant again. And this time he goes back to prison. But while he's in prison at this moment, he's like, okay, I got to do something different with my life. I have to really turn over a new leaf. I have to really be a devout Muslim. I can't just talk the talk and not walk the walk, basically. So when he comes out of prison, he's like, okay, I want a Muslim wife, Muslim kids. I want my past. I'm done with my past. But you can't just throw away your past when it's kids connected to that, when it's children connected to that. And for Yusuf, he didn't really, per se, abandon his kids. But like I said in the beginning of the podcast, the expectations. It's like, if you're going to come in my life, you need to not do X, Y, and Z. And this is my expectations. And either you get with the show or get lost. But the thing is, he missed 10 years of these kids' lives. And they're not kids anymore. The two oldest, they're the oldest children. They're in their 20s now. So, and he has 3 younger kids. And he's like hesitant about bringing the older kids around to the younger kids, because he don't want them to influence them to not wear the hijab, to wear different clothes, to be involved in the streets. And that's one of the main issues, is like, I want to bring my families together, but I don't want them to influence their younger siblings. Because although they had Muslim names, their mom was non-Muslim, right? And once he went away, they didn't learn, they didn't study, they didn't have any expectations of, going to the masjid or anything like that, because he wasn't around, So when the parents not around, and the kids are going to do what's easy, and especially if the woman is not Muslim, and it was just the ties to the man. If the man's not around to lead, what the kids going to do? Follow the mom. They're going to follow the mom.
So when he comes out, he goes and marries a Muslim woman and has kids with her. Okay. But he still has children attached to his other
situation.
Situation.
His other
I don't know if that's line of play, but you know how they be going out here in these streets.
Yeah, no, but his oldest son checks him though, and his Nasir. His son checks him by being like, hey, you can't, like, who you think you are? You trying to tell me that I need to stop doing this? You was doing the same thing. Like, why should I listen to you? Like, why should what you say matters? And Nasir is like, I want to go to the masjid, but I'm caught up. I want fast money. I want the fast life. I like this lifestyle, and it's like, you trying to come over here and show me Islam and try to make Islam all beautiful. But to me right now, I'm just like, I'm in the streets. I want this fast money,
Right. Absolutely. Wow. SubhanAllah. I want to get, because this is a lot of layers. The reason why I love this play and this storyline is because it has so many layers to it that I want to talk about. I do have to address our audience, my beloved audience members. So I want to just ask that we keep the comments related to the podcast. Brother Randy, we will be so happy to engage with you on a podcast, or even under another form that's more appropriate for the question. I think your question is really valid, and I would love to answer it at a more appropriate time. But we don't want to exchange in this sort of debate while we're talking about something completely different. So, Brother Randy, you're most welcome here. Please stay. This is a great podcast to tune in to maybe help you answer your question. But I'm going to ask for Brother Randy and anyone else that's engaging with him if we could kind of keep our comments on topic. And like I said, Brother Randy, I'd be happy to engage with you offline. He just asked, why do you choose to be Muslim instead of Christian? Okay, which we can address in a minute. Okay, so I want to talk about for a moment something that many of us deal with, right? As a coach or someone who just works one-to-one with individuals. I know abandonment comes up a lot. Childhood abandonment comes up a lot as a wound that a lot of adults navigate. Whereas maybe they have dealt with a physical abandonment from a parent, an emotional abandonment, or they still are navigating it. In my trauma bonded no more cohort, which we're involved in right now, we're talking about the impact of wounds and how sometimes when we have these like abandonment wounds, we're making choices or going on pathways as a result of this wound. So you have these children, right, that felt a sense of abandonment, which you're saying, their father, and at least one of them is taking on a pathway that is not good. As a result of this sort of unresolved feeling. I wanted to ask you, and I know the story is kind of based on someone else, but what were some of the emotions or feelings that came up for you or Salahuddin when writing this, as it just relates to just the impact of abandonment in our lives?
I can't really speak on that part for Salah because he wrote the play.
Right.
I'm so sorry, but I can share some of his thoughts that he said. A lot of times our parents are doing their best. They're trying, first generation Muslims, they just trying to figure it out. They're trying to figure it out. They get in all this information of what you're supposed to do as a Muslim, what you can't do as a Muslim, what you need to do as a Muslim. And they come from Christian backgrounds, majority of our parents that converted, reverted to Islam.
That's true.
And they getting bombarded with so much information. They have to decipher what's what, right? And sometimes they make, for instance, someone had told my mom that you're not allowed to go to your mother's funeral because she's Christian, right? Or you got to cut your kins off because they're not Muslim, or you can't associate with these folks because they're not Muslim, right? So when you hear that, you automatically was like, okay, I want to be a good Muslim, so I'm not going to do X, Y, and Z. But my mom went to her mom's wedding. Her funeral, she won't plan it. For the other part, it's like, okay, you go tunnel vision. You're like, okay, they telling me I got to do this. I'm Muslim. Okay, so I can't go over here. I can't associate with my family. And so you start to disassociate yourself with your children. Some people, not all, but some, they just forget about their kids, And so in that process, it's like we have friends that went through that situation with their parents, If their parents Muslim, marry another Muslim woman, move to, for instance, Philly. I'm gonna just use Philly. Move to Philly, have another.
I'm done with you for the night.
Move to Philly or move from Philly and leave their kids. or New York,
Someone from the Northeast, right?
Or Georgia, for example, people that live in Georgia move to another area in Georgia and act like they don't have kids,
Girl.
And so,
no, we know about this.
Yeah, so the kids grow up and they have so much pain, they grow up with so much hurt. And then the abandonment started, and the parent doesn't show any grace or seek forgiveness. Like, well, things happen, or they'll just make it up as an excuse. Like, it is what it is. You got to get over it. You still mad about that? Of course they mad about that. You abandoned them. And then to make it seem like you abandoned them from a whole nother family. So you go have a whole nother family with someone else. Then it's just like, but what about us? Are we not good enough? So then you start putting that doubt in their head. And then they start having resentment towards you. And that starts to build.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if I answered the question or I veered off.
No, you did. And what you mentioned is more, unfortunately, sadly, it is more common than we would like to admit. And especially like this idea of like, I'm going to just start over, or I'm going to get my deen in order. And then we tend to think that we're doing something altruistic, super righteous, but we're forgetting what we still have an amana over. Like what we still have. They still have rights over us.
Right. And I want to say this doesn't just go for men. It's go for women too.
100%.
Women, there's some women that have done the same thing to their kids. that started over and left the kids with the man, or wanted to bring the kids, or vice versa, but forgot about the kids. So it's like, I have a personal friend who mom lives in Georgia, right? And she doesn't see her mom. But her mom, I take that back. She only sees her mom when she comes to the masjid. She's grown, but they happened when she was a child. And it was like, it wasn't that the father was like, no, you can't take the kid or anything like that. She had rights to the kid, and he, it was the relationship, but she chose to be like, I'm not feeling it. I don't want to be a mom no more. Or I don't want to be Muslim anymore, and I want to go do my thing. I don't want the responsibility of being a mom. So it's women, men, they all, it happens to the best of us sometimes. Now, I'm not saying, but
it does. And life, and it can get confusing and challenging. Yeah. And so does he get to a point where he realizes that kind of mentality of being like hard on them, either they gonna practice the deen or they ain't gonna be here, that he has to make amends? Okay, now I said, okay.
I gotta go to my mom text me like, don't you give it away. People text, don't you give it away.
So we definitely have to come to the play.
Gotta come to the play.
I love it. I love that story. And I think it's so relevant to so many of us. And, many of our children, none of our children are exempt for this, go through a lot of, they just go through a lot of pain. And even with us, like you said, just trying to get this whole thing together as it relates to like, okay, maybe, marrying and divorcing, for an example, or children being impacted by that,
right?
Or just so many different things that happens in community pretty commonly, and figuring out like what is the best way to navigate that, right? As it relates to just raising our children.
Right.
The last thing I wanted to talk to you about is just this idea of making amends. What does that mean? What does that look like for us as Muslims, trying to be true and sincere to our faith, but at the same time, making amends to those that we may have hurt?
I will say this. When we do something that's displeasing to Allah, we seek forgiveness, right? We do tawbah, because it hurts us in our heart. So we have to take that same approach when we do that to other people. We have to make amends. We have to first forgive ourselves. We have to give it ourselves grace, because we are our worst critic. We tear ourselves down in a heartbeat for doing something wrong. But I believe if we try, we make steps and strive to do forgiveness, seek forgiveness. And sometimes, and I'm gonna go back to myself, I'm sorry. Sometimes, for example, I wanted to make amends with my past, like with my ex, right? But if you're looking for them for an apology from them, that's not gonna happen more time out of 10. So for me, I literally wrote a letter as if I was gonna give it to the person. I didn't give it to him, but I wrote a letter to express everything that I felt or what happened. And in order to do that, sometimes just getting that off your heart, it helps.
It helps a lot.
And I feel like when we mistreat or we cause pain in someone else, most of the time people are looking for I'm sorry, or all they want to hear is I apologize or forgive me. They just want to know that you cared, that you understood, that you know, that you acknowledge that you did something wrong. But 9 times 10, you're not going to get that. So the best way to girl, I got pregnancy brain, I'm sorry. the best way to combat that is,
what you're saying is very powerful. Just so you know, it's really, really powerful. Mashallah.
Okay. But
no, go ahead. Finish your thought. No, I just want to say that many of us get stuck right here in Shura. We get stuck right here, and we often think that making amends or offering forgiveness, we will lose something in that process, right? And many I
say, and you don't.
And you don't. You gain. You absolutely gain. And often say like we can choose to operate from the place of our ego or our lower self, or we can operate from our higher consciousness, from that spiritual, that place within us that's spiritually connected to the Most High. And in that space, forgiveness can thrive, right? Forgiveness doesn't necessarily let someone who may have caused you harm off the hook, right? It doesn't.
Not at all. No, not at all.
Right? But making amends is just a powerful tool. And I wish we could be more of a forgiving people, but we be holding grudges in Shara.
I promise you, me personally, I don't regret. Everybody was like, "Shit, you don't have regrets." I'm like, for what? Like, I'll be over in 2 seconds. Like, I may hold it on for like a little bit, but then I'm like, you know what? Mashallah, a lot. What was one of the things that I heard? It was like, I just get my blessings from you before we go to Jannah. I just get my D's. I just take them D's. That's all I get, you know. But I for me, it's just people do hold grudges, and it's sad especially us. It's sad because it's like it doesn't do anything, but I feel like it weakens your iman, it weakens everything in you, your heart, because how can you really say you love Allah and hold grudges for somebody? You know, how can you really say that you want the best for somebody and you got all this grudge? I'm not saying that, like you said, allow that person to hurt you. Put up boundaries. Like I always say, okay, I know who you are, so I know how to foul you. I know how to put you in the foul cabinet and say, okay, I know this is you. My expectations for you are low because I know who you are. So I can't be bothered by your actions because I know this is how you operate. And I feel like once you recognize that in an individual and you know that about them, you foul them accordingly.
Yeah.
And
that's that part right there. I agree. And even like I said, as we continue on this journey, you know, mashallah, we realize that almost every experience that we have is often about something greater and higher, something that Allah is calling us to realize about ourselves. Right. And that goes even deeper, like not to say that we just let people harm us. No, we absolutely have boundaries and we have limits and all of that, of course. But at the end of the day, that I don't see what you're doing to me always about me. I understand that that's about you. And maybe something of what I'm feeling is something that maybe Allah wants me to really internalize, fix, improve, or grow. Right. But that's like, inshallah, like, you know, hopefully we can kind of get to that space. But with our children, it's quite difficult. Because when they make a mistake, I don't know if it like puts a dagger in our, like, I mean, it just crushes us. I know this personally. And sometimes it's just hard to like you said, forgive ourselves and definitely not forgive them. Because like, how dare you make this mistake? How dare you embarrass me?
And disobey me and be disobedient.
Right? It's about the ego, man.
And that's sad because it is the truth. It is what it is. And we project what our expectations of them. We project a lot of our own
insecurities. Our insecurities.
Right. We project that onto them. So now it's like we're not allowing them to figure out or bump their head. Not saying, let me just back up. Not saying to allow them to bump their head, but give them grace. And if they make mistakes, don't be so quick to shame and punishment. And so you start making them fear you, then they're not fearing Allah, they're fearing you. You know? So
that was a big lesson I learned recently. By someone very near and dear to me, who reminded me, like, you know, when your child makes a mistake, instead of like thinking of the punishment necessarily that you can give them right away, like it's even greater if you could think of like, how can I reconnect them to Allah? Because ultimately that's all that there is, and that's all that matters, right? Like, how can I form or forge this reconnection to Allah? So mashallah, that's a beautiful reminder.
Mashallah. So it is, because parenting is hard, man.
Girl.
Especially parenting in this day and time. Like I'm a newly coming into preteen teenager.
Girl, I'm all the way in, child. It's not for the faint of heart.
Look, I'm over here saying what my sister-in-law say, Lord, the child that you giving me is not giving what it's supposed to give right now.
May Allah make it easy. May Allah make it easy. You have to say, like, what do I do? Social media, phone, school.
It's like It's all these, everything is coming at them all at once because we didn't have that exposure that they had.
Imagine what they're dealing with. Like they're just doing so much.
And it's like we made mistakes, but we didn't. No one knew. Like now you have
we
so much.
We were sneakier than a mug, right?
You didn't. It's like you didn't know they didn't have it. It wasn't broadcast. So for them,
social media was broadcast.
Yeah. Or everybody's like, you know what I mean? In a community that's like, because they know your parents. So they like, oh, I'm going to tell this and that. And now you like, oh my God, I don't have a fighting chance. You know? But I feel like if we set up healthy boundaries with our kids, you know, give them grace. Because one thing I do, my daughter cannot stand, I will talk her to death. Yeah. I would throw all the I can remember Quran. Like I would just get her to a point. I would talk her to death about a certain situation or behavior and be like, why do you think you behave that way? Yeah. What made you behave that way? And then I may call my sister and have my sister chime in, or call, her uncles and have them chime in. So I let them, I make it a village thing, because you need your village. Really I call her father, I call the stepmom, I call everybody. Everybody's chiming into this because it's not just me. This is our child, this is our family. And Allah says, save your family from the fire first, Absolutely. So you have to take that time to nurture those relationships, because these are the children you hope that when you pass away, they're praying for you. They keeping your memory alive. So it's important. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry, Insha. I didn't mean to cut you off. I saw something that Sister Sasha said that's powerful. She said that's what we have to rid ourselves of in the Black community, the degrading and humiliation of our children. For real, that's a generational curse that came from the slave plantation.
Yes.
Whole word.
Yes.
Whole word.
Yes.
The humiliation and degrading of them. Like even just think of how we, some of the norms that have, alhamdulillah, I think we're doing a lot better with it, but just when it comes to punishing children, punishing them, it's pretty.
Yeah, I know. My sister had to remind me when I'm dealing with stuff. She was like, no, don't do that. That could be humiliating. I was like, no, it's not. And then I had to think, and I'm like, oh yeah, that could be. I don't want to humiliate her. I just want I want to teach her a lesson, but I want to be gentle in that lesson. I want her to understand, okay, why I'm doing what I'm doing, not to think that I'm harsh. Sophia don't go with us no more. I mean, I stopped with Sophia a long time ago, but I just felt like that wasn't doing anything. Yeah. That was, if anything, it was making me tired and getting on my. I was like, I'm tired of this. This ain't working. So I had to find another approach, because that doesn't help. That's not the question. That's not the answer to everything. Whooping. Oh, you just need to beat them. Oh, they just need to be beat. No, they don't. Why? Why do they need to be beat? Beaten. Why? So I know that Sophia cannot stand me. I know Sophia can't stand me talking to her. So I just talk her, have other people talk. And then she'll get it, and she'll get it back in line, But having that village is so important. Yes, it is. Having a village. People involved in the Let me tell you, I call everybody, my mama friends, my friends, my aunts. I call everyone. Everybody get chimed in with Sophia. And then Sophia would feel like, oh my God, mommy, you got to tell this person. You got to tell. Yes, because I need you to understand that this is your village, and these people love you. They want the best for you. And they just helping to reassure you that this is what we all have in these expectations. It's not super high, but you are a Muslim, you are a Muslim female living in America, Black young female living in America. You're not like everybody else. And that's just the truth. You're not. But at the same time, I know you're a kid. I know you want to discover this. I know you want to be able to do this. But at the same time, we're going to set up boundaries, and we're going to see what is healthy relationships. What are friendships that really looks like good friendship, good companionship? Because like you said, you having that village, but having friends, having believers around you, that's what helps. Make or break you. It'll make or break you. I never, I never got why my parents were so radical about it. But when I tell you, they were so radical about friends, it used to drive, like, I didn't get it. Even like the neighbors on the block, they used to be like just ultra protective.
But when things came up, when I got in my teen years and stuff came my way, well, it was easy because I had this sister and that one and this one, like, oh, girl, you know, we ain't supposed to be doing that. Or, you know, aren't you going to the masjid and stuff? You know, I had that constantly because that's what they built. And that's one thing that I definitely say that, you know, inshallah, like we gotta, I hope to get back on so we have to do better and building those sort of villages with our
we do
kids.
Because it's a lot of Muslim sisters with kids that's in the metro Atlanta area that goes to Atlanta Masjid and West End and different other masajids, but we don't have that sister group like my mom them had. You know, we don't have that.
They grab us by the hijab in a minute. You know, it's not like that anymore.
Yeah, we don't have that. We don't have that. Oh, I'm gonna talk to you. Let me pull you to the side and talk to you. My mom friends, they didn't care. They were like, "Sure, come on. Let me correct you real quick." But they did it with love. It wasn't so much like you said, trying to embarrass, trying to hurt them, their feelings. It was like, look, we're gonna let you know, no, ma'am, that's not what we're gonna do. You know, and we don't have that. Unfortunately, some people have it, but not all.
Yeah, for real. SubhanAllah. May Allah make it easy. Well, I thank you, Inshira. I think this is just such a layered conversation. Again, I want to just drop information true to my religion. First of all, we about to take it nationally, okay? Because the moment I dropped this play, everybody's like, oh, when can she come to my city? I'm like, hold on, she gotta do it in Atlanta first, okay? So
yes, we
so tell us, give us all the details right now about the play.
Okay, so Atlanta is the kickoff. Whoop, whoop. My whole time. So the next one is Houston. So Houston is at the Deluxe Theater in the 5th Ward. Nice, beautiful, spacious theater. The tickets are up on eventbrite.com. The tickets, everybody been calling me like, what are the tickets? It's $35. We starting the tickets off at $35.
Very reasonable.
You can get your tickets. It goes up after September the 17th. It goes up to $45, but the tickets are up now. Houston is the next stop. After Houston, inshallah, it's Detroit. After Detroit, inshallah, it's LA. Cleveland is, inshallah, Cleveland will be next year. We was going to have it for this year, but they reached out to us and they want us to come in 2023. So we like, okay, we're going to make that happen. So inshallah, Cleveland is next year. And inshallah, New York is next year.
For you. We're going to get Philly going for you.
Philly. Okay, so Philly was supposed to be this year too. That was one of the 5-city tours that we initially started with. But we gotta have somebody. We don't have the connect.
We got it going. We got it proven. All right, I'm gonna connect you. We got it proven. So tell us, okay, for those that are in the Atlanta area, what are the dates, times of the show, and how can they purchase the tickets? Tickets, give the exact.
Yes, we need y'all to purchase these tickets. The show is amazing. I'm telling you, it's amazing. You can purchase your tickets hand to hand at the door. On eventbrite.com. You have a Friday show that's at 8:00. You have 2 shows on Saturday. That's at 2:00. We were thinking about our folks that can't drive at night or don't want to be out too late. It's a 2:00 show and it's a Saturday at 8:00 show. So there's 3 shows, and Friday at 8 and Friday at 8, Saturday at 2, and Saturday at 8.
Saturday at 8. Okay.
And it's at Drew Charter. It's at Drew Charter. Drew Charter's theater.
Yeah. And they have an amazing theater.
Yes, the theater is amazing. Yeah, it's at Drew Charter High School. So yeah, it's off 2nd Avenue. If you're familiar with Atlanta Masjid, it's literally 2 minutes up the street from Atlanta Masjid. And so, and we have vending. So if there's vendors that want to vend, the vending spots are still open for vendors.
It's about to be a whole party.
We try to make it. It has to be. It has to be. Okay. It's only right.
That's absolutely right. So I need to say this, Inshira. Listen, in order for this to be successful, I know because I've put on events and this is a grand scale, top-notch play that is done by us for us and others. It's with the intention of dawah, which means every dollar, inshallah, that we spend in the cause of dawah, inshallah, is for the sake of Allah. And inshallah, we know that that comes back to us 10 plus fold. We, inshallah, need you guys to purchase these tickets in advance. It really supports the play. It really lets them know about their numbers. We want to sell it out. We don't want people to come to the door and be buying tickets. We want to sell out the shows. So we want you guys to go right now on eventbrite.com to go and purchase these tickets. And again, even if you're like, man, I'm not available that weekend. Man, I won't be in Atlanta or Houston. Man, purchase the ticket because it is for the intention and with the niyyah of dawah. And that's a beautiful intention and a beautiful way to spend your money. And so I wanted to just put a call out. There was another sister that did a phenomenal play as well not long ago. And I said a similar thing, but we have to support because listen, I got to say this. I got to get my bag real quick. At the end of the day, an insurance with child, so y'all gotta just excuse her from time to time. But at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we are dedicated to spreading the message of Islam. This isn't the old days where people are taking pamphlets from us, right? This is not the way that we are able to really disseminate or spread Islam. It is through the arts. It is through the arts. It is through the amazing work of people like Salahuddin and Inshira who are putting on things like that through platforms, through plays, through shows where they are disseminating this sort of big message. And we really want to be in support of this. So I cannot stress enough to my audience to go ahead and support this show right here, right now, tonight. Don't wait, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you.
I have a couple questions. Okay, so the first one, can we purchase the play online? Yes, we just said I have the link on the bottom. Will you be offering a paid broadcast online? That's a question.
No, we wanted to. Unfortunately, we couldn't find someone who would be available at that time. But inshallah, we do plan on later. But at this moment, no, not right now.
Okay, perfect. Do you come to California? Will you come to?
Yes, we coming to LA. Inshallah.
I might have to check that LA show out.
Inshallah, December the 10th. I'm sorry. It's in Inglewood. It's the theater in Inglewood. It's oh my God, I can't think of the name, but it was on Insecure, and they just did an Eid tour there or a comedy show at that theater. So I can't think of the name. The Miracle Theater in Inglewood. So
that's gonna be a nice.
So inshallah, December the 10th. Like we said, we gotta get. We're open to sponsors. So if anyone wants to sponsor, like I said, our whole niyyah for doing this play is to give dawah, and to also allow those who are struggling in their deen or who knew shahada to actually be able to, relate and to know that, it gets better, it gets better because Allah tests us, but it gets as we go through our tests, because each level is a different test. Each level is a different devil. So you have to come on real tight,
MashaAllah. How about Chicago? They're asking, do you have Chicago?
Man, we need some,
we need y'all.
I'm over here joking. I'm like, hey, what's going on? So, excuse me. I don't know why I just did it. But anywho, Chicago, yes, we would love to come to Chicago. We just need someone to connect us with people for us to get that rolling. It has to make sense. We have to be able to travel with that cast. And in order to travel with that cast, there's certain things we have to put in place for us to be able to do that. But we would love to come to Chicago. We just need that connection.
All right, Ramon. So it's on you. Do you have the Houston dates?
Yes. Houston is October the 8th.
October the 8th. Yep.
Yes. Okay. Yep. And like I said, the tickets is up for Houston as well.
Already. You can purchase the tickets today. Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm trying to get my family back in the deen. You sisters are amazing. Jazakallah khairan. We appreciate that.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Well, Inshira, I appreciate you. Thank you for this dope conversation. Tell your husband You held it down on his behalf. You know what I mean? Alhamdulillah, I'm sure he's super proud. Inshallah, you guys are launching your play on the same weekend of the resolution conference.
Yes.
That I'll also be collaborating with Khalil Ismail. And we'll, you know, the organizers of the resolution conference are going to be in full support and attending that Friday night. And so, inshallah, you guys are going to have an additional conversation coming with myself, Brother Khalil Ismail, Inshira, Salahuddin, and maybe some other folks, just about a deeper layer conversation about this work and this collaboration and these amazing things that are happening.
And I want to say one thing. Sure. I'm sorry, Sabir. And the Muslim Culture Con is a young adult group that's inshallah is trying to jumpstart the conferences. So they have a Muslim Culture Con that's Saturday at 6:00. It's online. It's virtual. It's going to be on just for 90 minutes, I believe. But I just had to throw that out there. I'm a part of that too.
Okay. Is that the same weekend? Oh, Labor Day weekend gonna be jumping. Is that the same weekend? Mashallah. It's definitely gonna be an intriguing. I mean, so y'all need to make sure y'all are in Atlanta Labor Day weekend.
Yes. Come to Atlanta, support. That's the only way we can make things happen. We gotta support each other. We gotta show up for each other.
Sometimes you just gotta get on a plane and come support. Like I said, inshallah, I want to go back to LA. I'm gonna come on the weekend of the play. Like, why not? You know what I mean? That's how we kind of keep this thing going. Yep.
And I feel like the more we support each other, the more dawah we're able to give, and the more we're able to welcome people to Islam instead of them going the opposite way of Islam. You know,
absolutely. So and people can connect to the arts. Anybody can connect to the arts. That's the thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
All right. Jazakallah khairan. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you, Inshira. I'll let you get back to your amazing family. May Allah bless you. May Allah make it successful.
We're
going to sell it out, inshallah.
Yes,
we're going to
inshallah.
Sell it out. Okay, inshallah, we're going to do this together, inshallah. Tune in, guys. Again, you should probably see another in-studio. You're going to see a couple in-studio podcasts coming within the next week. We definitely have another one coming up with Inshira and Salahuddin, and we have some really amazing things happening on the Dope Muslim Women podcast within the next 10 days. So stay tuned. Thank you for connecting. Jazakallah khairan. Thank you so much. You both are the extension of our older mother's sacrifices, which is very inspiring. Jazakallah, that is the most beautiful thing that you can absolutely say. May Allah continue to protect our mothers and grant them Jannah Firdaus, because they have made incredible sacrifices for us. So that is an incredible thing to say. MashaAllah.
Mashallah.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. Assalamualaikum.